Okay, this is just, I'm having a Monday. I think it's actually Thursday. I'm having a Monday. So I'm just gonna apologize for those of you who come back and watch the recording. You missed a few minutes in the beginning. But we're gonna just kind of continue forward. So yeah, so let me go back to the screen share and yeah, really what we're talking about with Rick's work, and maybe just take a tiny step back, is that I've always felt this sense of poetry with your work. And has this been, how long has it taken you for this to really kind of emerge?
Well, a lot of the same themes were right there from the beginning. I just keep developing them, and it's more of a spiral than a straight line of
Oh,
how I kind of grow as an artist and expand. I keep coming back to the same themes, really, but I do find new ways to express, and I think I just keep getting better at
mhm.
ways to do that, or find new ways to do that. And I like traditional work, but I also really admire, let's say, the abstract expressionists and work that's very different. I have a very eclectic taste in the work that I look at.
Now, you were mentioning that you've kind of returning to realism with the work that we're seeing in this show. So what inspired that? And was it, like, I know you've had a lot of canvases that were, there seemed to be a thread, a naturalist thread, but this work is definitely has a little more stronger realistic approach.
Yeah. Some of the ones, the smaller ones, are plein air paintings. At least I went out there at the beginning, and then I do spend a lot of time in the studio. I work on a lot at a time, so I might put it up and work on it a little bit, and then another one. And so I don't, how many times it lands on the easel. So I usually spend a lot of studio time, even on the plein air pieces.
Oh,
But as I mentioned, which people who are listening to the recorded edition, I am influenced by my discovery of what I can do on an iPad. And I start with photographs, and I use filters and Photoshop and some that you can get on your iPhone. And then I'll put it over to a program called Procreate, where I can manipulate it pretty much like a painting. I'm still learning on it. It's amazing what you can do painting digitally with one of those styluses on an iPad.
wow. Yeah, I know. I think I'm gonna have to, when I get a break after the quarter show in February, I think I'm gonna have to dive in because, and just see, like, I don't paint, I don't, but I just love to understand the technique. And for me, I'm a hands-on, so, or maybe I'll just come to your studio and you can show me.
Yeah, it mimics brushes and
Mhm.
layering and so many things that
Hey, so talk about this painting. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I've got this painting, Cold Blue, up. And I want you to talk about it, but I also want to just tell people that this is so vibrant and so fantastic in the gallery on the wall. It's just something that it like people turn the corner and they're like, oh my God, and they just go straight to it. But talk about this painting for us.
it is an actual spot in the Santa Fe Mountains near the ski basin, and I was snowshoeing, and I exaggerate the color, and I always, manipulate things the way I want to just have a pictorial for pictorial reasons. But yeah, I wanted to capture the sun, and there's a warmth there, the way the bright sun hits everything, but it was also a very cold day. It was very crisp, and the contrast with the uh, aspen trees too, which kind of really in the sunlight have a beautiful kind of purity about them, just like the snow.
Yes, right. And it does, you absolutely feel Rick's paintings. And this one you feel really in particular because of the way you've created this work. And I want to pull up, so your third large painting, or your other large painting, is Upward Gaze. And this one does feel like you kind of have a sense of that you're laying on the forest floor with this painting.
Well, that's also up there, the same area where the previous one was, where it came from, the original photograph. And it's a place I like to hike. And it's very steep at that point. Those are rocky cliffs. As you scale down, we'll see what I'm talking about. And so I don't have to lay down. You're standing and you're looking up. It's just a very steep spot. And I thought the contrast of the trees up against those cliffs were really dramatic.
Absolutely. It is dramatic. You know, something else I want to call attention to, and I tend not to talk a lot about technique and things like that on these talks, but I think it's worth calling attention to how you lay down the paint, because there's a lot, like right in this passage near the top here, I think you can kind of see it a little more, is this how there's the underpainting, and then I think, but please correct me, are you're at some point, are you pulling some drier paint and drier brushes on top, so you're getting that real shimmering layer upon layer upon layer?
Yeah, that's a pretty good description. There's always a tone that I work with, kind of a middle tone that could be a lot of, I like to use a double, 2 layers of color, one color, this is acrylic, and then sand it down and then put a second color. And that's my tone that I start with oils on top of that. And I also use cold wax, and I use paint sticks, paint oil bars, which have a little wax in them. I worked years in pastels, and so I learned how to use layering partly that way. And even though they're very different mediums, they look similar when you see them, especially on a digital screen where you can't see the texture.
Yeah.
So I really vary the application, and yes, a lot of layering, some transparent, some heavy bodied. In the case of mixing it with a cold wax, it's both transparent and heavy bodied, or it can be. And with the sticks, that there's a lot of a scumbling technique, and I let it dry in between too. So I am putting layer upon layer.
Yeah, and just like, and I think this is going to be interesting when we look at, when we move to Diana's work and then to Sophie's work as well, because they're working 2D as well, but in slightly different mediums. And so, but both of them, like, I think really the brushwork is a character in a way, a very essential element in the work. So we'll take a look at that. But I also want to just kind of click through, and then I'm going to ask you to hang on, and we're going to pop over to Diana. But I want to look at these smaller ones. And these are, so you were saying these were plein air, which means that you worked them out on location, but you never fully finish one on location, is that?
That's right. Yeah, I rarely, in my years of plein air painting, have I finished one. It's kind of a rare thing on site. So I've come, and I like to work it, until I feel it's got something special other than just capturing what I was seeing.
Yeah.
So there's the poetry that I'm looking for, what you talked about.
Is there, when you are looking for that special thing, is that a mood, or is it what is it? What is the special thing?
Mood is definitely part of it, and composition, something that pushes it in some way. And not that I'm happy to, if I get a sweet traditional landscape that just came together and worked, but I do like to push it, and sometimes they go much more extreme than theirs. I kind of chose some that are relatable. I tried to include a group of 6 paintings that held together and were fairly traditional.
Oh, I like that. I appreciate that, because I think there is that sense of, with an artist's body of work, and certainly, oh, this is great because Diana does this and Sophie definitely does this. Each year, when we get your work, it is kind of a group that works together. I wouldn't go so far maybe to say a theme, but I think it's exactly what you're saying, Rick, is that there's a thread.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Sheep Mountain is the sixth one that I'm going to pull up here. And another one, this was another one on location, right?
Yes, it started near Telluride.
Hmm.
I was painting with friends, and I actually had to rework it because it hadn't gotten to that place where I felt it was pushing it in some way enough. So the mountain, I really pushed the colors, and then I had to kind of work on the foreground as well to get something that I was happy with beyond just, I don't know, something more ordinary.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it just sort of, I think with your work, I get a sense of your emotion attached to it. So, which is really lovely, really nice. Um, okay, so go nowhere. We're going to be right back. I'm going to pop over to Diana, and you're going to get the spotlight, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, I'm doing fine. I'm doing great. I'm sitting here in the Coors Art Room, and apologies if it gets a little noisy around here sometimes, but yeah, I'm just surrounded by all this incredible art. So yeah, I'm actually having a really good day.
Great. I'm so excited to see everybody in January. It's been too long.
It has been way too long. It certainly has. So, hey, let's dive right into this new work that you have for us. And, I think if people were on our call last time or got to hear you talk last time, they probably learned a little bit more about you and about how you grew up, and you had a grandfather who was quite the storyteller.
Yes, he was. He was amazing. He moved to Montana in the early 1900s and, left behind quite a big family in Nebraska and ventured out into, it was the Wild West back then. And
Oh
so
yeah.
he took his wife, who was kind of a city slicker. She wasn't too happy about it. But they went to Whitehall, Montana, and I think that was the happiest time of his life. Because
Wow.
when he came back, they moved back to Nebraska eventually. He would tell these incredible stories, these tall tales. And a lot of those stories have influenced my work.
So you grow up and you start creating art. And when did your grandfather's stories start to kind of seep into the work?
That's interesting. It's just happened in the last like 3 or 4 years. And I've been painting landscapes and animals for a long time. But it's just been recently that Bruno the bear, has, ventured into my work. And it's been really sweet. It's like it's bringing my grandfather back to me.
Oh, well, you know what? Let's just jump right into the work. I'm gonna pull everything up right here. And hey, I want to remind everybody listening, if you have questions for the artists on the talk, please just give us pop it into the chat box, and I'll read your questions out loud for everybody in comments and anything like that you are really wanting to know about. So okay, Diana, you know what? I'm just going to pull up Bruno. Let's pull up Bruno's Lookout. And Bruno does pop up in your work every so often.
Yes, he
Tell
does.
us, tell us about Bruno.
Well, Bruno the bear, for those of you that don't know the stories, my grandfather used to go out and chop wood in the mountains. He used to go hunting. He'd be riding in the mountains on his horse. And, it's dangerous. And his stories that he told all of us was that he would have some kind of horrible accident, or he would get lost, or he would get stuck in a snowstorm, and Bruno the bear would show up and save his life. And for years, we all believed that Bruno was a real bear, that he really existed. And I think I was about 9 when I found out that he was just a character in a story, and I was crushed.
I bet you were. Well, it's got to be that. That's probably got to be akin to Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy and Easter Bunny, right?
More upset about Bruno than Santa Claus.
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh. So Bruno does make an appearance in your work, and and I think this is something that with artists. So there are a lot of landscape painters that are magnificent. We have a number of them that are fantastic. And there are a lot of wildlife artists that are just unbelievable. Pulling them all together in a storyline, though, doesn't always really happen for some reason. And it just seems like a natural flow for you.
Yeah, as time has gone on, I've developed kind of a style that is somewhat my own, I feel. And I love doing abstract painting and I love representational. So I've married them in my pieces. When I started painting, I worked very quickly. And I love the abstract expressionists. I love Joan Mitchell especially. And I work very quickly with palette knives and, all sorts of different tools. And then I get the feeling of how this piece is going to develop. I work very intuitively and very quickly. And then the animals start appearing. And it's a matter of allowing myself to just be in the moment. It's very meditative for me. My art has been a real healing journey for me. And so then the animals start to appear and the whole piece comes together.
Is there a sense as you're working of bringing your grandfather to mind, because you are now a storyteller with paint?
Yes, I feel like he's with me, and I know that he is, and he's still, he's saying, "Yeah, go for it. Take risks, jump into it." And yeah, he was just a huge influence in my life. So
Yeah.
I definitely feel him in the studio with me.
Mm. So when you're creating abstractly, like right now we're looking at the watering hole. You're creating abstractly and then horses appear, or how does that happen?
Well, I usually have an idea before I start what the painting is going to be about.
Mhm.
I usually have an idea if it's going to be horses or a bear or deer or a fox. And then I will also have kind of an idea of my palette at the time. And I think you'll probably notice my palette's a little warmer than it has been.
Well, it is. Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, but that's when I work really quickly in the beginning, and then I hone in on the animal. And I used a combination of sketches and photographs, and I put them together. And I just want to kind of get a feeling. And this body of work, I really wanted to have a feeling of peacefulness and solace
Mhm.
because
Mm.
it's been a tough couple of years for a
Yes.
lot of people. And it gives me a sense of peace to be creating these pieces too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think this is an interesting thing. And I'm gonna, after we're done looking at your work and in between you and Sophie, I'm just gonna do a quick little pan around so you can see what I'm getting to enjoy as we're talking about things. But I just keep telling people that this year is just such an incredible year. The work is absolutely gorgeous, but there is throughout this sense of calm and harmony. I just can't wait to get here and sit in the gallery. It's just really a joy. And so I think that exactly what you're saying is a theme, whether it's conscious or not, with our artists. So I'm pulling up Mustang Mare in full.
Yeah, we have a wild horse herd near my home,
Oh,
and they have been quite a source of inspiration for me over the years. I ride my horse up into the Book Cliffs to see them. I hike up there. I take a lot of photographs, and they are so beautiful. And there's something about seeing a wild horse herd in the wild land. It's just so beautiful. And I wanted to get that feeling of this connection and love and that the two have for each other.
let me unmute. I think it's so nice with artists who take these concepts and then bring them out for us in this different way. Exactly like what you're saying, pushing, and what Rick is saying, and I know what we're just about to see with Sophie's work when I click over to her, is this taking this realism and pushing it in a way that shows all of us non-painters our own world in a more unique or beautiful and inspiring way, which Jeannie Kiranis, I apologize if I'm mangling your last name. Oh, Janine, who wrote Diana, your work is an inspiration. Yes, I agree. So, hey, Diana, stay put. We're going to come back to you, and I am going to grab Sophie. While you all are here, and while we're waiting for Sophie to come back, I'm going to slowly turn my computer so that you all can see the gallery. So here's your sneak peek of the gallery. And so that's my storage space. Here's when you walk in to the left, Javon Lee, and you can see Elsa Soroka, and straight back. So here's this full gallery view, and you can see Rick's painting over there on the left, and straight ahead, there's Andrew Beckham and Scott Frazier, and then our featured artist, David Griffin. So yeah, there's just this incredible sense of, well, it's beautiful, and this great sense of calm and harmony. So, okay, so I just let Sophie back in. So let's see if we can get her. See if we can get her microphone working. Jessica Haskin, thank you for that comment. She writes, I absolutely love the luminescence in Rick's work. Is it possible he could talk about how he achieves that? Sure, actually, while we're waiting for Sophie to come online, let me see if I can get Sophie in. But Rick, do you want to talk about that briefly while Sophie's popping in?
Well, one of the ways which you noticed right away was that it starts with a underlying tone and that pops through. And so many layered, and it's always no color exists by itself. It's all in relationship to other colors. And so, it's kind of a succinct way to talk about it, I guess.
You know what, and I think, and these talks are so wonderful to show you the work, and then when I put them up on screen, I can show them to you really enlarged so you can see things. But really nothing takes the place of being here in person, because when you're here in person, you know, you can really see those layer upon layer upon layer, you know, in all of these artists' works, but in particular, you can see what's happening in Rick's work. And then you kind of have to get your nose right up into him. I don't recommend doing this, by the way, at the Met in front of a Jackson Pollock, because the guards will yank you back. It's really kind of oh my gosh, I think Sophie probably knows this experience.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Yay!
No, I'm so sorry.
No, it's all, you know what? This technology has been just love-hate, right? Yeah,
Yes, it's great when it works and really rubbish when it doesn't.
exactly,
Sorry
exactly.
about that.
Yeah, no, this is wonderful. So, okay, so Sophie, you are spotlighted now, and I am going to share your work here in a minute, but I really want to tell you all a little bit about Sophie. And gosh, we've known each other, what, 15 years or so? When did you
About that, it must be that, yes.
see that, right? So Sophie obviously is from London. Well, maybe not obviously, but the more you hear her talk, you're going to kind of know that. And Sophie is a horsewoman. And I remember when I first saw your work, and I called you because you're living up in north of Boulder, in Colorado, and I called you and said, "Hey, could I come see your work in person?" Which is what I always try to do before adding an artist to the core show. And you graciously had me come north, and in your studio, and this is what is really reminding me of this first time I walked into your studio, are all these luscious drawings behind you. There were all of these amazing drawings and sketches all over the place, on the floor, everywhere. And they were these beautiful, like maybe there were drawings of a horse leg and a hock and a hoof, or a, you know, a mane or a nose, or, you know, they were just these beautiful studies of, and I think you were just kind of trying to put together compositions, and but your studio was covered with them, and you were just talking and showing me paintings, and I just kept thinking, could I create a distraction? Will she know if I roll up a whole bunch of these and stick them in
Aw.
but from the moment I stepped into your studio, I've been just a huge fan of your work. And I think for those of you who have watched Sophie's work from the moment she started in the core show, through the work that, all right back here is the piece that we own. It's hanging up behind me. This is the one we bought 2 years ago, and it's in our permanent collection. And I'm just so thrilled. But for those of you who have watched Sophie's work, you have seen this incredible motion forward with the work. And I will tell you, artists who are out there listening, this is something as a curator that I am very passionate about and look for. I want artists who are continuing to strive forward. And this is something that I think Sophie embodies like no one else. And Sophie, I would love for you to talk about what's happening these days inside your studio and, you know, the work behind you.
Well, all sorts of things. It seems that you know, a lot of the things behind me are etchings and prints, and I've been doing those, and I do seem to have more and more different sort of avenues in front of me, and different paths that I'm taking, and I trust that they all sort of come together in a way. Rick was talking about choosing 6 that went together, which can sometimes be a challenge. when there's so, it seems to me I respond these days to so many different parts of life and things that sort of speak to me, or, you know, just small ideas that then turn into, you know, that resonate with a sort of form or a way of working that sort of develop from there.
You know, I think the other thing too, and I'm going to do a screen share
Okay.
because the other thing about your work is materials. And I'm going to pull these up. So seeing this small on the screen, And really all three of these artists, and I could say it for everybody, but I think in particular, you three, you have to stand in front of this work. And this painting that I've pulled up, Colorado Heat, is 48 inches tall, 93.5 inches wide. It's spectacular. And so something that I would love for you to talk about is what materials you're using in this work, because it's one thing to capture motion with drawing and design. It's another thing to add to that burst of energy or this thought that you're trying to create with the other materials you're using, like spray paint, like your what you're throwing at the canvas, and these things that are you're allowing to happen without controlling them. Would you talk about that?
Yeah, and like I've been very drawn to things that happen quickly and without much control, like spray paint and like, you know, just the physics of doing a fast sort of splatter. This painting went through quite a bit, and I was painting it, and it was, you know, in the summer, and there were a lot of smoky days from the fires out west, and it sort of, I wanted to get this, I wanted to have elements of things that were not controllable in it, like you know, if it drips, it drips, or if it goes in the wrong place, it, you know, I mean, it just sometimes without really looking. There's a lot of taking off of wet paint. It's various kinds of acrylic. There's and the lovely thing about acrylic is it dries, and so you can put on, like under the horse's belly there's a green-gray swath, and you can put on a lot of paint and then literally wipe it off with a wet sponge. So, I mean, I don't know who said it, but somebody said, if ever you're stuck with a painting, paint with a rag. And I can't remember who said it, but you know, my go-to is put paint on and take it off with a rag or a sponge.
Oh, wow.
That's because you can't really, I love the things that you can't control.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to me that, I mean, it just resonates with my life so much that I can't control and don't try to.
Well, you know what? Isn't there something really freeing with just not only accepting that, but embracing? There's so much you cannot control.
Yeah, and it's with painting, it's the best things happen, it seems, when you are prepared to lose everything, or to, you know, destroy the best part of the painting. It seems, I don't know, there's something about that. There's something about, and spray paint is fabulous for that, because it covers a lot of ground, and, you know, you've done it and then you've done it, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can't undo it. And you can destroy, you know, you can destroy a lot of careful work in seconds. And I love that about it.
Yeah, right. And this is another really good size painting. Rabbit's a bird and a bucking horse, with this fabulous just bomb of spray paint right here. That is so, we've had a lot of fun lighting work this year, by the way. And this one was a particularly fun one to light, to really capture.
Why was that? Why is that?
You know what? Because we were moving the lights around on this painting, and I finally told my guys, I'm like, pop that spray paint, pop that. And as soon as we did it, it was like, there it is. Like, it just, I don't know what happened. It just all got really exciting. Not that it wasn't exciting to start with, but and this is a painting that, I'm scrolling through it, and so rabbit's a bird and a bucking horse. And I almost don't want to give away the plot. Like, I think you're just going to have to come see this one in person. That's all I'm going to say is,
Oh,
you
you've done it.
what was the inspiration with this? This is really different for you.
Well, it is and it isn't. It was the use of pattern is different for me, I guess. But it's they're all a bit. I spent a lot of time this year at in the house I grew up in.
Oh.
And it had all this. It has this fabulous arts and crafts paper, wallpapers, and I was just trying to reconcile my sort of childhood influences and a sort of innocence with a sort of contemporary with my contemporary what's the word for it, connection with painting forms,
Yeah.
And the things that have influenced me from years and years ago, and the sort of amalgamation of things that we all are.
Mm-hmm.
It just struck me. How on the one hand, a story is so specific, but on the other hand, everybody's story is specific, and I just trust that the things that resonate from my sort of vault of influences, from wallpaper to spray paint and vandalism, also resonate with other people, or connect. I trust in the associative power of specifics, I guess.
There is actually it's sort of a truism in writing, which is exactly what you're saying. The more specific, the more universal. Yeah.
You said that. That's good.
You know what? It's me. I say that.
Oh,
but the more specific, the more universal. And I talk to people about it when we're working on writing for your website for artists. And I say, go ahead and get specific, because people are going to have a connection. And it's just like that wallpaper, because I think everybody had wallpaper when they grew up somehow.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's something so innocent about this particular one,
Yeah. Yes.
with the, innocence of animals and
yes.
people. And then the guy who's coming off that you can't really see because of the horse. All you can see is his hand.
Exactly.
Really.
Yeah. Just flying off the back. Hey, so I just want to take a second here and read some comments in the chat, and then I want to show a couple others. And we're it's just after 1 o'clock, but if you all don't mind, why don't we just hang out and keep talking a little bit, because we got off to a bit of a rough start with some technical difficulties here. So, and I fully understand everybody listening if you have to pop off, but we'll just go over a little bit today, if that's okay. But Ginny writes, love both Rick and Diana's work. Thank you for taking the time to do this Zoom. The entire show looks great. It does indeed. Jessica Haskin writes, Diana, the way you tie together an abstract background with more realistic creatures is stunning. Agreed. And then Jeannie writes, wow, Sophie's work is amazing. Yes, it is indeed. Pam writes, it's extraordinary how well you capture the soul of an animal, which comes through authentically to the viewer. How are you able to convey that so beautifully, Sophie? Good question. And Diana too. Yeah.
if you pull up The Innocent, there's a little painting called The Innocent, and
Yeah.
most of my horses are. I don't give them human characteristics or a human life, but I recognize a parallel in their emotional and physical being, and it seems to me, and that really speaks to me. It always has spoken to me. Just
Well, and
the recognition in their physical selves of something that is human or to do with being alive.
mm,
I
you
don't
know,
know.
and I also think so. Last night I was talking to 2 out of 3 of the artists on the call last night. Kim Lordier and Lori Kersey are both horsewomen, as you are. They were raised with horses, and both had fathers who trained different areas, but they grew up riding and working with horses. And you know, as you did too, right?
Yeah, I've had horses my adult life, and they do the most amazing things for human beings,
Yes.
and they do things they would not, like this horse would not be doing this,
Mhm.
would not be moving this way or doing that, but they accept the restrictions of human needs
Mm.
and of their life. And it's just to me, it's such a, I don't know, it all speaks to me of just what it's like to be like this one. It's like, when, to me, it's about feeling outside of things and seeing life through a sort of thicket of stuff in your head, or knowing there's something, or from the horse's point of view, knowing there's something within this, beyond this sort of veil, this thicket of spray paint lines, and just knowing it's like seeing each other. It's like the viewer or the painter, me, connecting through a sort of chasm of connecting on a sort of level
Mhm.
that is what am I trying to say? Connecting on a level with a being that is different, or to something that is different and yet the same.
And I think we talked. I remember, we talked, and this was a handful of years ago. And you were saying how this work has evolved into self-portraiture. Would you talk
Yeah,
about that a little bit?
yeah, that's sort of what I mean. It's like a recognition. When I start to make a painting, it starts with a recognition of something.
Mhm.
The horse's, the horse's situation, its environment, and what's the things that are influencing the horse, and it's the responses. I feel very connected to their responses. I mean, they are very they show everything immediately. As soon as it happens, it's on in their body, and therefore visual. And if they're frightened, it's in their body. If they're exuberant, it's in their body. If they are at peace, it's in their body. And I recognize that. I think human beings hold things in their body. I certainly hold things in my body, stress and anxiety and just things. And I recognize that in horses, and in a way that is, to me, it feels clear. And I think other people do too. I mean, I trust that is a recognizable thing.
I think absolutely. And I think you are striking at something that is such a strong connection between the three of you on this call today, is that I think all three of you are incredibly empathetic, and have that ability to communicate that empathy through whatever subject matter you choose, right? And so a number of people have made comments on here. So in asking Rick, how do you get that luminescence, right? In asking Diana, how do you get that authenticity, in you as well, Sophie, that power behind these images that you have. And I think, we could continue on for the next several hours talking about technique and the mediums and all kinds of stuff. But that skirts around the issue, doesn't it? Because I think what you're really so in touch with, and I think why this show, like none other, is so graceful, so harmonious, so calming, so absolutely lovely, is that this group of artists are incredibly empathetic, but also incredibly brave, because you are putting this out there for us all. And it's an absolute joy. So I am going to stop talking and let the three of you, if you would like to add to that, and if anyone has more questions, I'll read those. But this is a time in the conversation where I love to have our three artists on the call respond to each other and ask questions or make comments. So please, I'm gonna zip it.
I have a comment that I think is common with both Sophie's and Diana's work, is that, there's this naturalistic empathy with the animals, and it's really impressive. But I love too the surprising brushwork, or just the use of application of media that's so supports what's the emotion in the animals. And it's kind of adds to the mystery of it. That's what I try to achieve as well, is that mystery that's hard to talk about. So sometimes you get tongue-tied in trying to put your finger on what it is, because it's the ineffable. It's something that you really can't define. And that's what I'm actually striving for.
Yeah, Rick.
Rick's painting, I don't know the name of it, but it's the one that has the light in the bottom. It has some light tonal light in the bottom right hand corner, and that is such a dance of color. You go from one to the next, and they sort of float around in space and within the rectangle, and it's such a dance. It's beautiful. I can't wait to see the actual one. But when I look at paintings, I can't help trying to imagine what it's like to paint them. And it's like, oh yes, that right in the foreground bright will just set everything else into place. And I really look forward to seeing it.
I could so relate to your comments about being willing, at least, to destroy something that's carefully, your favorite part, of the one that you had to work so hard carefully, and being willing to do something that just messes it up and destroys it. And there's those surprises. And I think that you really do that with your work. There's such an energy that you bring to how you, especially in the backgrounds, and they interweave through the horses as well. It's pretty exciting.
I'm interested in, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Go ahead.
Carry on.
Well, both of you have been huge inspirations, actually, for me. I'm really moved by your work. Sophie, the emotion and the emotional quality and the drama is just, and the expressive quality of your brushstrokes just blows me away. I love it. And I'm always looking at your work, trying to learn. And Rick, your work just conveys this, they're lyrical to me. I almost hear music when I look at your work. And I get this feeling when, like, my favorite place to be is an aspen forest. So your work really speaks to me. in that I feel like it's not just a forest. You can feel the energy behind the trees. You can feel this cosmic energy infiltrating the entire canvas, and it's beautiful.
Thanks. And I feel that mystery very strongly in your work, just this, these creatures that sort of pop out of this world that's, you know, so magical. And your work is very magical.
Thank you.
It is indeed.
Well, okay, so we have gone way over, but I always hate ending these calls because they're just, I get so much out of them, and I always think I know a bunch and before we start talking, and then I get so much more out of them. But I don't know if anyone else listening has any more comments, but the recording will go up online. Apologies for missing the first part of Rick's conversation, but he did backtrack a little bit for us, and you asked us some wonderful questions for him. And so I would just really like to end by thanking all three of you, wishing Rick a happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you all. So the core show is up for today, and I'm going to try and extend some hours tomorrow if you'd like to come for a sneak peek. And then we lock it down for the holidays, and it'll be back up Monday, January 3rd. Everything is up online too, of course. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out to us. And we'll look forward to seeing you all in the new year. You are going to absolutely love this show. It's stunning. So thank you all. Thank you, Sophie, Diana, and Rick. What a wonderful conversation this afternoon. I'm just buoyant. It was fabulous.
Thank you, Rose. This has been wonderful.
Thank
Thanks.
you all.
Thanks, Sophie and Diana.
Yes,
Take care.
Thank you.
Take care,
Bye-bye.
everybody. We'll talk soon. Bye.